Hi y'all. All right, I am back in the city finally, yay. But of course, because I still love Virginia wildlife, I'm painting some Virginia wildlife. I guess you can take the girl out of Virginia, but not Virginia out of the girl. So these are blue crabs, which are native to the eastern shore, as far as I know. Should probably do a little bit more research before I talk about it like that. But they're what we would catch when I would go crabbing as a little girl in Gloucester, Virginia. So the males have blue pinchers and the females have red ones, and that's how you can tell them apart. Interesting fact, and I've been kind of playing with that a little bit too. So I'm going to turn this around and show you what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. Follow along. Okay, so I am right now going to paint a female blue crab, which, as I said, has the red claws, pinchers, whatever they're called. So because I want this in the center of my page, I make a little note up there where my center is, and then I start looking at the body of Miss Crabby. I've painted a bunch of these, so I don't look at photos anymore. And keeping in mind that they are symmetrical. Again, I'm drawing the big shapes. And these are, as I always say, guiding lines for me as I'm painting. So not so much drawing as a final product as it is maybe a sketch. Now, I always draw first. You don't have to. So this here is enough for me to get the feeling. Now, going in, and I'm starting with my darkest dark, which is right in that body. And to get that, per usual, I am going in with my darkest dark, but I'm going in lightly. This is so that if I want to change my mind later on, I can. These tips out here on the side tend to get really dark or saturated. But I also want to make sure that the body is doing some of the, that the viewer's eye is doing some of the filling up, the finishing for me. So I'm not going to fill it in, especially not right now. This is not so much that I think that this is white, it's that I know there's light shining there, and in reality it would be a lighter blue, but here I want to show that there's light. There's also just kind of making the brain work a little bit. this part I'm definitely going much lighter on because there's a lot of different colors in there. And I'm going to get the colors to blend wet into wet. So I'm working quite quickly here so that I don't miss my little window. So now I'm going to use a bit of yellow ochre, come in here, and this is, even though I'm not looking at a photo or at a real crab, I have looked at them, so I know that this is where there's some of this kind of ochre greeny colors, at least on some of the crabs that I've been looking at. And you'll see when I did that, adding more water, it had dried a little bit. I have a fan going in here. It's hot, so I think probably drying more quickly than usual. And it lightens it up. And that to me is okay. I like the lightness. You see how some of that pigment was moved around when I did that and lightened in there. That's just something that happens with watercolor, and if you don't want that to happen, then I don't know, follow a different painter, because that's how I like to work. Anyway, I'm just kind of working in here, dabbing, and now, I want to get that red in, because this red is really important to the entire painting, because it informs, its color story. Very different painting if it's all blue or blues and greens. When I introduce the red, very different, especially this red, which has a bit of, this is cad red, cad red with a little bit of alizarin, I think, and a little bit of ochre. So my point with that is that this red can go a little bit orange because of the yellow ochre, and that will that means that it can kind of act as a complement for green, red and green, and for blue and orange. So that's an important thing to think about, and makes the red that much more of a real player in this painting. So now I'm working in the cobalt. I love this cobalt. It really can kind of take on a life of its own. So, getting in there. And I have to be honest, I have never, I love symmetry, love symmetry, my gosh, but I have never been very good at painting or drawing symmetrically. I don't have patience. So, I have decided that making something perfectly symmetrical is not going to be a battle that I fight. And so I'm not totally worried about whether this is perfectly symmetrical or not. And I'm here to tell you that it's not. And that's okay in my book. If I wanted it to be symmetrical, I could get tracing paper, I could I don't whatever people do to make things symmetrical, especially really make it symmetrical. But that's not how I work. feeling like I'm doing a lot of kind of small marks on this, and that's because these lines are so itty bitty. And what I'm trying to do as I'm going through with my kind of little lines, which can feel a little bit maybe uncertain, I guess is the word. Trying to go also and say confident, like more confident strokes too. I don't feel unconfident when I'm painting this, but sometimes these little kind of little lines like that can make it seem a little bit less certain. All right, I'm actually really liking how this is coming out so blue, but I want a little bit of red in there because that's, other than in the claws, because that is true to Madame Crabby here. A bit darker in there. I added a little bit of ultramarine. Can't really tell, but I did. And then there is just a little bit in here. And doing that, I find that it's blending in or mixing on its own because I'm working wet into wet. A little bit over here. And then when it does that, it gets a little bit of the purples in, which is really nice, I think. Because I have a little bit of yellow in there too. I'm always thinking about my complements, as in complementary colors. Purple and yellow has never been my favorite color combo, so I don't really tend to lean into that one, but sometimes it's nice to do. Now I'm coming back in because I want this to be a little bit more on the blue side here. These are the eyes of our Crabby. And I think I read somewhere that these are the teeth of some sort. I should do more research, but I did double check in between these videos, and the blue crab is indeed indigenous to Maryland area. So I was not making that up, but now they're kind of international. So an international Crabby. Okay. There's also this pretty yellowy orange, almost like a coral color along the inside. It looks like like little hairs or something that are on there in here, which I have not really totally studied the anatomy of the crab. If you haven't caught on yet, but got a little bit of it, so that's nice. Okay, so now is when I move on with my pencil, and I will probably, once this dries, it will dry lighter, so I'll come back in and work more on the, to get my darks back in. but at this point is when I like to work in with my pencil. Get some of my drawn lines in. There. That. And again, it's not going to be totally anatomically correct, and frankly that's okay with me. This is not for a textbook or anything. It's the feeling of a blue crab. So I will probably come back in, get a bit more dark in here, around in my spots that kind of need it. But I'm going to leave it for a bit and revisit so that I don't mess it up by working too quickly. And there's also these lines in here. Okay, that's that. And if you make a crab, let me know.